Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, Sports Ethos Show, brought to you by our great partners at FanDuel. It's our third episode today. It's our 30-team deep dive. We're breaking down buy lows, sell highs, ads, drops, basically taking everything that I do over the course of the 3 to 4 days of the pre-weekend rush before fab bids in my high-stakes leagues. Take all that data, crunch it up, and then we try to deliver it to you guys. Let's dive right in. We're going to go through all 30 teams, starting with the Atlanta Hawks and one Trae Young. Trae Young. What the hell is happening with Trae Young? Trae Young is this first-round draft pick that sort of was a set-it-and-forget-it guy, and then he gets hurt. Then he shifts from a good situation where it feels like they finally did a good thing in Atlanta, and they surrounded him with defenders, and they got Kristaps Porzingis, and this is the chance that they were going to take and make Trae Young work in Atlanta. Now injured and missed another game in the last one, and the question of, does Trae Young ruin the fantasy value of his teammates, or is this a real buy low moment for Trae? I think it's not a real buy low moment for Trae, and that's where we start here with this 30-team episode. So the reason I don't think it's a buy low moment for Trae is I think right now both Trae and the Atlanta Hawks are being careful with his overall health, and they're just preserving their options. The trade deadline in about 45 days here is going to start percolating pretty quick. I think teams that get to the other side of the new year, decision makers, their families, the agents, the players, everybody's in Christmas and New Year's mode. And right after the New Year's Eve games and the New Year's Day games, teams start to get serious. And I think like everybody does at this time of year, pardon me, they take stock in what they have and what they don't have. And I think right now what Atlanta has is Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Zachary Risache. And they're looking around and they're saying, we can subsist off of this. We can actually create a new window in Atlanta based on this group of guys. And we don't know if we need Trae Young for the next stage of his expensive, career. And that's kind of where we're at. And if Kristaps Porzingis can't really play due to his illness, and all the other various injuries that he's racked up over the course of his career, this window might be done. And this team is looking at then what can we get for Trae Young in a marketplace where there are about 5 to 10 players, it feels like, that fit his description. Teams don't want to pay the max that they have to pay a player like this that has question marks and takes up so much oxygen within the box score. So Trae, you're looking at a player that with a first-round price tag, second-round price tag, is not producing at all this season. He hasn't been on the floor. And when he's been on the floor, he hasn't been good. He's a 74-95 guy in 8 and 9 cat leagues, respectively. Lots of rust and lots of just crap built into that. A lot of good players surrounding him as well. I don't think he even wants to come back into this team, it feels like, and dominate the ball and take away from what his teammates are giving him. So it's a really tough moment for anybody who drafted Trae Young. Maybe you felt like it was a safe pick, but it ended up being a disaster pick. And I don't think you can buy Trae low because I don't think that person's willing to sell Trae in a 9-cat league where all those turnovers start to matter for, a top 50, 75 player. That's probably where you want to aim. If you're trying to predict the value of Trae Young heading into January, February, March, and April, like there's a lot of questions about that trade deadline, and players take games off, and then they, like with this quad injury, they get careful, and that's going to eat at his bottom line for the rest of the season. So I don't think you can buy low for Trae. I don't think you should buy low for Trae. It's possible even in an 8-cat league that when he gets back and going, whether it's for the Hawks or wherever else he lands, that may not want to put him in the catbird seat the way that he's had all of the usage and everything he wants to do on a basketball floor. He's had no questions asked about it. Where he goes when they trade for him, they might actually have some stipulations on whether or not he gets to just haul off and shoot threes whenever he feels like it. So Trae Young, I wouldn't be buying low. And conversely, I wouldn't be selling high on teammates. By totals, Jalen Johnson's a number 5 fantasy play this season. Onyeka Okongwu inside the top 20. Nickeil Alexander-Walker inside the top 40. Hell, if you drafted Dyson Daniels and you feel terrible about it, I don't know that you should. He's been the 45th best fantasy player in 8 cat leagues and the number 60 player in 9 cat leagues. It's not terrible. I mean, I got Dyson Daniels in the 5th round. I got Dyson Daniels like in the 50s in 30 deep. Don't know why that happened, but it did. And this is the worst that he'll be all season long, by the way. So I don't think these guys, we should be running from them. I think that they are the future in Atlanta. And if you were to dock Jalen Johnson by maybe 5 ranks, I could get with that. If you want to dock Onyeka Okongwu by a round or 2, I can get with that. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if you want to dock him, say 2 to 3 rounds, I can get with that. But I'm not sure it's going to happen. So if you want to buy into that, I think it's probably more effective than selling out of that position, because I don't know that the name value for Onyeka Okongwu or Nickeil Alexander-Walker is moving the needle as much as they're moving the needle in fantasy leagues. Same with Dyson Daniels. I think the reverse is true. I think you might actually be able to get into this with a strategic offer because people are afraid of what Trae Young's going to do, and they don't respect what Atlanta has done. The only other name here that's interesting is Zach Risache. It's kind of interesting. It's a fun with stats kind of a deal. He has been a top 140 guy this season in by totals cumulatively. I think if you're in a deep league, this actually might have worked out for you. If you're in a deep roto league, I don't think he can be a thing this season, but it would be interesting if Trae Young got traded. I think we would be looking at Zachary Risache for the back half of the year. All right, that's enough Atlanta Hawks talk. Let's get to the Boston Celtics. The question that I keep getting asked is Jordan Walsh a must-roster player right now? I think the answer is yes, and I do recognize that there are some issues here, but finding somebody with the kind of numbers that he's produced this season, top 55 to 70 in the last 11 games, including these dog games where he's just been fouling out, whatever the issues are, it's illness and inclusive of those bad games. He's still a top 50, 60, 70 guy, hitting 70% of his field goals, 90% of his free throws. That gets you 10-6 with 3.3 combined cash counting stats over the last 11 games. Bottom line is I want to see what happens after the bad stuff, after he gets the finger wagged at him for getting into foul trouble once again. And maybe a little bit of additional referee respect would be nice. But Jordan Walsh has done way too much for us to just turn our back at this point in time because mid-round value doesn't grow on trees. Jaylen Brown's been good this season. Would I consider selling him high? I get asked quite a bit. He's top 20 to 40 guy by totals on the season. He's shooting 4.3% better from the field. He's taking 4 additional field goals per game over last season. He's over 5% better from deep compared to last season. So this shooting regression, it's coming. And then the issue of being better from the field while taking on more volume on a team that's not as good, that thing's just staring us in the face here. And so, yes, I would consider selling him high. I think it's actually a pretty good business considering he has some injury history. He's taking on all the wear and tear. This feels like you're going against the grain. You're going against the current. It feels like he might have leveled up here and has been and is a better shooter and is a better playmaker. And I have seen elements of that all over the place. But reality says that there's no way he can keep shooting like this for the rest of the season. Boston is going to be in the playoffs. They're going to play for the playoffs. Hell, you might get Jason Tatum back at some point, though. I'm not sure what to believe on that front. Is he going to make waves and break records for the return from an Achilles injury, or is it just a lot of smoke and mirrors, or hey, let Jason say whatever he wants to say and do whatever he wants to do. We'll support him in his recovery, but we're not letting him out on the basketball floor before he goes through a battery of tests and all of the different things. But at some point in time, especially in your fantasy playoffs, if Jason Tatum comes back, that's not going to be fun for Jaylen Brown, who right now seems like he can do no wrong. I think if you were to float that totals rank by his opponent, 20 and 40 and 8 and 9 cat leagues respectively, they'd be hard pressed not to come back and say yes to giving you something of like a top 30 to 50 player right now. And if Jason Tatum's back in your fantasy playoffs and Jaylen Brown is now reduced to old Jaylen Brown, you will be glad you made that deal. And you might be glad independently of that you made that deal as well. Let's get to Brooklyn. Of course, we know Michael Porter is a massive sell high candidate. No news there. Nick Claxton now passing the ball with 4.3 assists per game. That's a fun little development. We'll keep our eye on that. He's been better than I think people thought he would be and better than his ADP so far this season. We've talked a lot this season about Noah Clowney, kind of just a late round guy the rest of the way. Igor Joman, alternating between good and bad games, terrible ones, pretty damn good ones. Over the last 5 games, 30 minutes per game for him, 16 points, 4 threes, 3 boards, 3 assists, just 0.8 combined defensive stats, and the 40% from the field is terrible. 2.6 turnovers isn't helping him altogether. It's been a streaming value in 12 to 14 team leagues. That's probably, with Joman, the most interesting thing they got going on. You could also look at Cam Thomas as interesting. I think that Cam Thomas might score 50 points in a game this week. Could happen tomorrow, whenever they play next. It could happen. I don't think there's enough here from a fantasy perspective for us to care about it. I think I'm more worried about what does he do to the rest of the rotation in Brooklyn. Does he kill off all the fantasy value for everybody else? Does it become a distraction? What does this do to the marketing effort to trade Cam Thomas? Because he's not playing in Brooklyn next season. I'm sorry. He's just not. He can't be better than a top 100 guy, I don't think, going forward. Maybe he can be that. Maybe he can be a late round guy. Maybe he can justify the pickup in that regard. I just want nothing to do with it because there will be off time, I think, given his injury history and everything that he's going through in addition to the trade situation. I think they do have to be careful with him. It's the Brooklyn situation on top of it. So Cam Thomas, even if he scores a 50-point game, probably not going there. Danny Wolf was a topic in Brooklyn. And just to quickly touch on Danny Wolf, the reports are not great, from the people on the ground watching him play. Not playable is what you hear a lot about Danny Wolf. So probably not. We're not there yet with Danny Wolf. The good games, reach the threshold of possibly being a guy that they would anchor to for the last half of the season. The bad games are Danny Wolf can't stay on the floor. So we will not be looking there at least anytime soon. Pardon me. Let's get to Charlotte, where we have Con Knippel dealing with an ankle injury. It's funny. We've been talking about Con Knippel as a sell high guy forever. And I kind of finally gave in, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what I don't know with Con Knippel. I obviously misevaluated him coming out of college, and now he's running a lot of action for the Charlotte Hornets. So he's constantly around the ball. They've figured out good ways to get him involved, and his overall skill level has given him the driver's seat really in Charlotte. And so now he's hurt. What are we doing? Is he a buy low target? Well, we got to look at the fact that the shooting numbers have been really, really good lately. And so there is some regression that's on the way, like 54% over his last 2 games, 51% over his last 5 games from the field, that is. Over his last 11 games, 49%, and on the season, 47.8%. And if you told me that Con Knippel was going to shoot 47.8% from the field to start this season, I would have been drafting Con Knippel. So this question, can he be this kind of a player where he gets enough easy buckets and he's a good enough shooter? Obviously, that was what he came into the league based on. Can he be a high-end 40% shooter on big volume and get you 3.6 triples per game? And then the rebounds and the assists, are as a function of his size and his strength, his ability to handle the ball. The overall stat set, it's nice. I mean, 40+% from 3, 90% from the foul line on a nothing 2.5 attempts per game. So he's in the middle of it. The defensive stats are obviously the problem, 0.9 combined on the season. I think when we look at this 8 cap per game rank of 53 for the season here, we're basically saying, all right, there is some regression potential in here. And there's some Charlotte chaotic potential as well. But let's just look at numbers only. Probably going to be a top 70 guy at worst, top 75 guy at worst in an 8-cat league the rest of the way. If he has a big shooting slump, it might go down to 80, 85 at worst. So that's how he profiles right now. He's playing 33 minutes a game. I don't think his minutes are at risk. And the injury probably, if I had to guess, isn't going to bring his numbers down when he eventually gets back on the floor and healthy. So I think it is a buy low situation, even though there's sell high elements still in here. This regression is still in here. It's still Con Knipple is doing what? But if you look at how he's played and you look at what Charlotte has and what they're wanting to do, they're going to keep him on the floor. So this player that not a lot of people respect, I don't think on the on the whole. Like I think people don't look at Con Knippel's name and think, oh, that's a top 50 fantasy play. Well, he might be a top 50 fantasy play the rest of the way. And he might end up having one of the best rookie fantasy seasons, or a top 10 fantasy rookie season of the last decade. We never get rookies inside the top 50. And Con Knippel's out there making it look easy. So I would say with him being injured, if you want to toss a top 75 player across to get Con Knippel, I think he's going to reward you with top 50 play the rest of the way and probably stay in the game and healthy. An ankle injury is very fluky. Yes, Charlotte could rest some guys down the stretch. It's theoretically possible, but man, try tossing a top 90 or a top 100. And maybe people just aren't aware of what Con Knippel is doing. And we move on. And before we move on, a quick reminder, if this show is helping your team, please subscribe to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast feed and the Sports Ethos YouTube channel. It really helps us out. Chicago, Modest Bacelis. Oh boy, Modest Bacelis. It's 99 on the year, 8 cat rank, and 96 on 9 cat. So no relief there. By totals, this is not as bad as it seems. By totals, it's 56 and 58. Right where you drafted Modest Bacelis. And I get it. A lot of you guys aren't in roto leagues. In head-to-head leagues, you want the pop, you want the sizzle, you want Modest Bacelis to be playing more than 27 minutes per game. You hate seeing a 3-rebound night. The guy's averaging 5 boards. One night it's 3, one night it's 7. One night it's 3, one night it's 7. No assists this season. 2.2 combined defensive stats, 1.7 threes. Obviously the draw here. The free throw in a good spot, 80%. Field goal, 48, 49. I mean, maybe we could see better with the guy who could fly and dunk like that, but he does shoot the 3 ball. So it's in the right spot. It's all in the right spot. It's just not consistent. If he's playing 33 minutes per game, the rebounds start to get up to 6. You can live with it. The threes up and over 2, the points up and over 16. It works if he gets more minutes. Right now, it doesn't work because Billy Donovan doesn't want it to work. I'm going to buy into Modest Bacelis because I think the dud and the bust hype is so loud for him. I think people are so disappointed in him. They're disappointed in the whole situation. And oh, by the way, the guards are now injured in Chicago. Kobe White is hurt. Josh Giddey has a hamstring injury. And theoretically, this would open up more opportunity for Modest. I don't even think that matters, but it probably doesn't hurt. I think with Modest, you could probably toss this per game rank over to somebody and say, hey, I would like to give you my top 100 player. And Modest Bacelis, finally at the end of the season at about the halfway point, maybe the 2/3 mark, gets his 30-minute per game mark, maybe even more. And then from there, you're starting to look at top 75 Modest Bacelis, and he'd probably play the entire way. And that will get you a top 50 rest of season rank. So I do like Modest Bacelis for the rest of the season. It's not fun to talk about right now, but I do think inside of that is a nice buy low player. Now, Kobe White, it's been really rough with Kobe because not only is he not producing, but he's also not playing. And a lot of this comes down to the fact that he's never been a defensive stat guy. So if you get any fall off whatsoever in the minutes per game, if you get any fall off on the shooting 44.5% on the season, it starts to show up in the numbers. This 141 per game rank staring me in the face with Kobe White. Really, really frustrating. If you made the draft pick before injury news started piling up, and then if you made the draft pick while the injury news was piling up and you're thinking, okay, this is just a little calf injury, nothing big here, right? Oh, it's a season of calf injuries. Oh, it's really, really bad. Yikes. Now Kobe White has a re-injury of the same calf that kept him out to start the season. And now we're just asking ourselves, is he a top 40 guy still? Is he a top 100 guy? Is he a must hold with this injury? All these different questions surrounding Kobe White. I got him in one spot. It feels like I got him in 50 because of that one spot. And obviously, in my situations in 200-player leagues, I would never even consider dropping Kobe White. But if you're in a league where top 75 or top 100 plays, and you're just out of IR slots or don't have IR slots or whatever it is, you're looking at Kobe White. Like, can I drop this guy? I don't think you're dropping this guy. I think what you're doing is you're going to wait and get this injury update. And then once the injury update keeps him out a couple weeks, then the question becomes, is it worth the hold at that point? And I think the answer is going to be yes. And I think there is a market for Kobe White. I think only Kobe and the team knows how bad this injury really is. Are they in the trying to keep it from a disaster, kind of a situation, or is it already a disaster in the sense that it's hurt and it's going to be hurt all season long? That would be the disaster for this season. And other than that, I do think skills wise and everything else he brings to the table is a top 40 player, Kobe White. The questions come and they start etching away at that value. And if we get a 4-week timeline or a 4 to 6 week timeline for Kobe White, then I think we can start to talk about what that buy low or the hold circumstance would be for you guys. Maybe you wait and you take the bad news on Kobe White. And those of you who have squads that are just outpacing the competition by a lot, you can get in there and swoop on a distressed asset and try to take advantage of the fact that the person who has Kobe White will probably deal him for a top 75 or 85 or 95 player. If that's a bad timeline, they'll deal him, and then you'll have potentially top 40 to 50 value when he returns, and he will definitely be an injury risk as well. So we'll game that out. Top 50 is hard to find. And in terms of who is going to rise up and take all of this value, presuming they're at least one of them, Kobe White, is out for a little bit here. And with Josh Giddey and a hamstring injury, I mean, these things could take a bit. We'll see what's going to happen there. It's a ton of value. It's a ton of stats. It's a ton of minutes, touches, etc. Aya Dosunmu is your safe play. This is a guy who's ranked 165 in 8 cat leagues and 26 minutes per game. So if you bump that up to 30, 31, 32, he will be inside of the top 125. Never a lot of upside for him if he got any defensive stats at all. I would love to see this guy on another team. I would see that, like, philosophically, if he was able to just go out there and run around and do stuff, I think Aya Dosunmu might actually have defensive stats as a part of his makeup. But in this case, and it's been this way for a very long time, he just doesn't have them. He's got everything else that you want. He shoots over 50% from the field, 86 from the line, 43% from deep on 4 attempts per game. So it's not nothing. So he's just a super efficient player, and he passes the eye test. He's a winning basketball player. He just doesn't have a lot of stat set upside. So I'm not actually as excited as I might be for somebody like Trey Jones, who's been a 115 guy in 8 cat leagues in his 26 games this season, 27 minutes per game, 12-5, 1.5 steals, also shoots well with the percentages, low turnovers. So he has been a top 75 guy when he's gotten hot, really easy. And this is a time where they might say, hey, Trey, we need you to do that. Kevin Huerter has had moments of top 75 play this season. He's probably had about a month of it early on in the season. And then it's faded as the injuries have racked up and as the Chicago Bulls got healthy. I think maybe they phased him out a little bit. They might bring him back into that prior role. So you have 3 players right there. One who will be safe and late round, and Aya Dosunmu, and then you get your upside cracks with Trey Jones and Kevin Huerter. And I would rank them in that order right now. And it just depends on what you like. You want a little risk? Well, then, you take your Trey Jones. If you want to have something low and slow, take Aya Dosunmu. Jalen Smith has been called into action also as well. Zach Collins is missing about a week right now. So with the scoring needs probably just right on the front burner in Chicago, I think Jalen Smith has a pretty good week this week. Probably a good time to stream Jalen Smith. And then maybe you get a little bit more after the fact. But we've been looking for more from Jalen Smith for about 3 to 4 seasons now, and it hasn't happened, and he has injury risk. So I would go with a streamer recommendation there in most 12 to 14 team formats. Let's get to Cleveland, where we have Darius Garland to watch. We've got Evan Mobley to watch. And I think those are probably the guys. I could talk about Donovan Mitchell, but really Darius Garland might be the straw that stirs the drink in Cleveland. He is maybe the guy most responsible for them either being a good team in the East or them being a mediocre team in the East. And it's the firepower. Donovan's going to do what Donovan's going to do. When Darius Garland's out there, there's more tempo. It's more balanced. It's a second vicious attacker. It makes defenses really, really struggle to have both those guys on the floor at the same time. But Garland, clearly, a rough start. He's a 113 rank on the season in 8-cat. In 18 games, he's playing 30 minutes per game. He's picked up the pace lately. He has a lot of room for growth. In fact, we're seeing that lately. He's shooting 46, 47% from the field, but just 40 on the season. That's the last 2 weeks at 46 and 47, but 40 on the season. We're going to see those numbers come up, and we're going to see, potentially maybe a return to some of the principles that led to Cleveland being such a good squad. Maybe at this point in time, Donovan Mitchell will say, hey, Darius, why don't you take the ball? Because we did that last year and we got a lot of good results out of that. And so I think Darius Garland is a buy low. I think people are, and but just full disclosure, I've been wishy-washy on this all season long. I didn't like Darius Garland about 4 weeks ago. Once he got healthy and he showed he could do some stuff, I think we've got to respect that. And I think at the same time, the market for Darius Garland is super soft out there. Like, people are concerned about his injuries, and Cleveland is not exactly making headlines for the right reasons. So Garland's kind of, I think, maybe still a bit of a little bit of a black sheep where people are going to be willing to part with Darius Garland. I think if you can get him in the 75 to 100 range, that's great business, because I do think he has 35 to 75 potential for the rest of the season. I think 75 would actually be his floor. So Darius Garland, I think there's some pretty good potential here. And it's not like Cleveland's going to stop trying this season. Even if it gets bad, I think they're going to keep going unless it gets really bad. But I don't think that's going to happen. So Darius Garland has a nice ramp as long as he can stay healthy the rest of the season. And that kind of upside is really tough to get. As far as Evan Mobley goes, I'm encouraged by his free throw shooting. That's all I got for you. I'm not encouraged by anything else. I'm not encouraged by his bag or lack thereof. I'm not encouraged by his defense, which is there, but it's not like, defensive player of the year kind of stuff. It's, I don't like the way that they're deploying him. I don't like anything about this at all. He's a 57 and 8-cat leagues on the season in 33 minutes per game. It's the free throw shooting is obviously killing his rank at 65% on 5 attempts per game. There is not enough volume to support what was an early second round pick in a lot of different leagues. People with the highest fantasy basketball acumen you're ever going to find are fighting over Evan Mobley left and right. So there is like, I don't think anybody is winning or losing, the analysis game on this. It's just Evan Mobley hasn't stepped up to the plate, and he is desperately needed to do that. But, you built this team in a certain way. If you have Jared Allen out there, you're not able to do the things that you would like to do with Evan Mobley that would make him more special. I think everybody wanted him to be more special, but that's just not the situation to allow for it. Let's get to the Dallas Mavericks, because old Danny Gafford felt like I was like talking into the ether, pissing in the wind. Yeah, Gafford's going to happen at some point, and I was doubting it myself. Finally, in the last game, Danny Gafford went off, and essentially, if you take measurements of Daniel Gafford when he is playing well, you get into the early rounds so quick. Last 3 games, 21 minutes per game, averaging 11, 7, and 2 combined defensive stats, 79% from the field, and top 90 to 100 value. Okay, so we mixed a bad game and a medium game and then a really good game to get those numbers. And we want to look at his last 2 games in 24 minutes per game. Let's look at this as like the Anthony Davis is not playing scenario. 14 points, 8.5 boards, 3 combined defensive stats, and the shooting comes down to 75%, and that's a top 55 value. Last night's game of 17 and 10 with 4 defensive stats was top 30. So it happens fast for Daniel Gafford. He looked light, and some of the dunks that he had in last night's game, I just didn't think he had in him. I didn't. It's good to see, because the prior games, lumbering. That ankle was clearly bothering him. I don't know what they shot into that ankle for last night's game. Maybe they went for it because Anthony Davis wasn't playing, and he'll be back soon. And maybe they're like, Danny, we're going to put you, we're going to shoot you with adrenaline right in the ankle, and you're going to get out there and you're just going to dunk on people. But bottom line is he looked good, and you got to kind of look at that and say, all right, at least it's possible, and he can handle 24 minutes per game going forward. And we absolutely do have a shot at top 50 upside with Danny Gafford. Wow. It went from drop zone to early round potential really, really fast. Really, really exciting stuff. Anthony Davis, obviously struggling. He looks at something the wrong way and then he gets injured. He ran to the locker room after a groin tweak the other day. And they're just being super careful. But this is the story that you're going to get with these players who have big names and big contracts, and they're not as good as the money is, but people still think they are. And then they go to the marketplace, and it's hard to trade guys with that size salary. And they're just all looking for the future. The Dallas Mavericks aren't looking at Anthony Davis unless you want to kind of go thread the needle and say, oh, they'll make the play-in. They'll make the play-in, and then with Cooper Flagg and Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, and Klay Thompson, who's probably not going to be around, who knows, that they could make some noise in the playoffs. That's not really going to happen, and Anthony Davis is not going to be in Dallas very long. So the issue here is that until the trade deadline and probably for most of the rest of the season, if he gets dinged up at all, they're going to play it carefully. And that's probably the smart move with a guy like this, because if he pushes through it, he's just going to fall down. You drafted Anthony Davis because of the top 20 to 25 per game production that he has right now, which is down, by the way. You drafted Anthony Davis because he's going to give you first round production, and he's really one of the few players who can do that. There's certain stat sets that are capable of providing that kind of value, and he's on the short list of having them. So if you had to draft Anthony Davis, and I'll raise my hand right here, I didn't want to do it, but I had to. When you get a number 8 pick in a draft, and you're looking at Trae Young or whatever, Steph, the normal set of guys. Well, who are you going to take? And what's your format? So anyway, I got some Anthony Davis, and it sucks. And I got some teams that are doing really, really well with Anthony Davis on them. If he could just be healthy, that would be great. But that's not where we're at. Where we're at is people actually looking at Anthony Davis and say, can I buy this guy low? I mean, like we're in end of career Anthony Davis territory. And it feels like I could get Anthony Davis on a buy low offer. I would say this. I think you could get him for his current value right now. I think you might be able to get him for a top 30 pick. It's not for the faint of heart. And I don't think you should do it unless you need the stats that he provides. But if you need the stats that he provides, his volume's down by 1.4 field goal attempts. He's down a half a 3-point attempt per game. He's nearly half the free throw attempts that he would normally have in a season. I mean, we're obviously injury driven, but it is not likely that he's going to take half the free throws that he would have taken in a previous season going forward. It's the thing that's really tough about it is it's impacted his shooting percentage as well. So he can have a huge value swing from the foul line. This is a guy that normally hits 80% of his free throws. Down to 71%, I think you could get a lot of value change. It's so risky. It's so inadvisable. Hell, you might even be able to get him for a top 40 guy right now. But Anthony Davis, if you need that stat, if you need his stats, if you need a big man, Anthony Davis is positioned as a buy low guy. Let's get out of Dallas. Let's get to Denver. Aaron Gordon, a top 75 play in 8 cat leagues this season in his 13 games. And the thing that was remarkable about it is he was essentially another point guard on the floor. We've seen this in Orlando when they tried using him like a point guard. It didn't work there. It looked terrible there. But he had that in his background. He had it in his skill set, and he's been playing with Nikola Jokic forever. So he has become one of the more savvy players in the league, and giving him the ball and letting him get out there and score. I mean, 19 points a game, 2 triples per game, 6 boards, not a lot of defensive stats, but the percentages were good. 86% from the foul line is great. I think when you lose Nikola Jokic, what's the next thing you're going to want to do? Well, let's go to the guy that's essentially the backup Jokic, and that's Aaron Gordon. Hell, body-wise, pretty damn similar. I think you see Aaron Gordon playing the center position, and you get some Jonas Valanciunas in there, of course. But I think Aaron Gordon is the guy that we should be running and not walking to go pick up. And sure, he's probably on IR in a lot of spots, but with this injury update probably due independently of the Jokic situation, it was probably coming any day now. I bet that now that the news is ultra focused on injury in Denver, you got national media that's going to converge on this situation. I think we get that Aaron Gordon update like yesterday. And I bet it's Aaron Gordon's going to be returning to action within like a week. Then I think this, pardon me, top 75 production in 8 cat leagues, and it's even better in 9 cat leagues. I think that's what you're getting when he comes back. There is some injury risk with this, and he's been an injury risk guy in general. I think the efficiencies are probably up for debate. If you want to slide these numbers back to top 90, top 100 in general, because I think if he's going to handle the ball as much as it seems like he's going to handle the ball, he's going to turn it over more. There will be some improvements with the assists. I think you can see a balancing of his numbers. I kind of like the number 80. I think 80 might be the perfect representation of what Aaron Gordon will produce at. And depending on your size, your league size, I think that either is really, really nice, or if you're in a league that only plays top 100 or top 125, it's tucked in nicely enough to be valuable enough to warrant the attention that I'm giving him here right now. Jonas Valanciunas is a really interesting one. When I saw him working out before the season started, he looked really overweight. And he looked like a guy that knew he was going to take the balance of the season to get himself into shape. And now he gets an opportunity right away. His numbers, when he's been good in the past, have floated around top 100. One season climbed up into a top 50 posture. I think that was 3 seasons ago. I don't think he's got it in him to beat top 75. I don't think he's got it in him to beat top 100. I do think he has a shot at top 100 to 125. And I do think that they will put him out there and let him operate somewhat like Jokic. It's just not going to be pretty. It's not going to be effective. Teams are going to figure out how to scheme against him. They're going to start targeting him in the pick and roll. It'll get ugly probably right around 20 minutes for him. So I do get that we have to respect the fact that maybe they just toss him out there for 28 minutes a game. Maybe he's in better shape than I'm giving him credit for. Maybe he's just able to go out there and kind of reproduce statistics in a way that, this team's been built around Jokic for so long. Valanciunas can play that role. So theoretically, he could step into some stats. So I think we got to respect that. If I had to choose between the two today, I would take Aaron Gordon. Knowing that Aaron Gordon's been rostered in IR in a lot of spots, Jonas Valanciunas is definitely I'm not going to say run, don't walk. I'll call him a walk and a walkover and pick him up kind of a guy, but he's already probably been picked up in a lot of formats. So I don't know that you'll be able to do that one way or another. Peyton Watson gets another kind of like 3rd or 4th lease on life here. The other injuries have given him the space he needs to produce in fantasy leagues. Now, it hasn't been great. He's been a 145 guy in 8 cat leagues, 27 minutes per game this season. So if you get him up to 30 and 33, sometimes he can crack those kind of like top 100, 125 numbers. But, foul shooting is always a question with him. Just overall production is a question, and assists and threes aren't exactly great for Peyton Watson. So it was a big rush to get Peyton Watson and Cam Johnson 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. I faded that, and initially it looked like I might have made the wrong call. But overall, these players have stayed in their kind of statistical profiles and not, run to the bank and cashed it in. So Denver, pretty interesting right now. And Spencer Jones, I think, will actually cruise as a late round value. And Bruce Brown, I don't know if he has enough in the tank to get up and over the cut line, but he's looked quicker than he's looked in previous seasons. But what I wonder about with Bruce Brown, he's been sitting for a while. He's been kind of hanging on to that, whatever he's got left in that knee. He hasn't had to tap into it just yet. He's going to have to tap into it now. And I wonder if we start to see a degradation of his explosion as well as potential injury risk. And we move on to Detroit. A lot of people wanted to know about Jalen Duren earlier in the year. When Jalen Duren was starting to go off earlier in the year, I kind of had a notification in my mind to go watch Jalen Duren film, because it's like, what the hell's going on with Jalen Duren? He's just going off. And then you see he's got handles. He's moving. He's flying up and down the court. How does a man that size do that? Well, it looks like, as a lot of people with fresh legs, it's kind of clawed back to what we've seen in past versions of Jalen Duren, where never been a big, never been a jumper or, kind of a versatile athlete, just a big guy who can do things. And now that's what we're seeing. He's had ankle issues in the past. I kind of wonder how much that wear and tear has started to impact his fantasy game. Now, after a top 20 start, he's more of a top 55 guy in 8 cat leagues. And really, all we've seen from him this season that's different is that he can take and create more shots than he's been able to in previous versions. All the other numbers are pretty much the same for him. So as the team is at full strength, and maybe this could change if they get a couple injuries, Jalen Duren might have another round or two in him. But what we saw early on was essentially Jalen Duren at his peak athleticism, getting out there and getting the high end of his numbers. And they've now receded back into what is now the normal baseline. So if you're asking me, what does Jalen Duren do for the rest of the season? It's exactly where he's at right now. Probably still some room to sell high if you have Jalen Duren and people think he's a top 25 guy still. Let's get to the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry is hitting just 40% from the field over his last 6 games. He's otherwise a top 8 player on the season. If you would like to try to purchase Stephen Curry, this is your one-time window. Let's get to Houston, where Tari Eason is starting to percolate. And what are we going to expect from Tari Eason on the season? Well, he's been a top 120 guy this season. He's done it in 23 minutes per game. The points and the threes and the boards, God, this doesn't even matter to me. Like, this is Tari Eason we're talking about here. Tari Eason has this capability of reaching up to the sky and getting top 50 numbers kind of whenever he wants. And we haven't seen that this season. And we've had a couple games in the last few days that remind us that Tari Eason can be that guy. The reasons why Tari Eason can't be that guy, one of these games comes with, some of this action comes with Alperen Şengün out. One of the reasons that Tari Eason can't be this guy is Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün are going to demand the crap out of the basketball. And I don't think he's going to be able to consistently have games where he just goes off, hitting, say, 3-4 3-pointers, getting those points up into like 13, 14, 16, 18 range on the good nights. And the defensive production will be there. Everything else is what it is for Tari Eason. It's just he's in the past been able to be a focal point of what they're accomplishing on offense. I don't think he could do that this season. And Reed Shepherd has his role. Amen Thompson is locked into his role and takes a lot of oxygen out of the box score and out of the pattern there. So Tari Eason, I don't think folks can count on a top 50 upside for him this season. I think it's top 75. I think it's top 100. And then you have the injury risk, and you also have back-to-backs, which are probably off limits. Can't imagine they would be on after the start of the season that he's had. And at the beginning of the year, they said they were out, the back-to-backs, that is. So Tari Eason, interesting, but I think we should keep our expectations in check. Let's get to the Indiana Pacers. We have Aaron Nesmith, and what are we expecting for the rest of the season? I think with Nesmith, I would probably go with his career numbers. I think that the top 100 to 125 range fits for Aaron Nesmith, depending on your league size and how valuable that is, would sort of guide your actions here. I have 2 competing thoughts. One is this team could get really bad really fast. They have the worst record in the league, I believe, right now, and guys are going to fall apart, and then they get bad. And we've seen that with Indiana already. Hell, we've seen it with Nesmith. He's only got 37% shooting from the field this season in 13 games, mostly an efficiency guy. So that's not real. But if your teammates are bad, it can get real quick. So that's one thought. The other is it might become Aaron Nesmith's ball club at some point. They might really look to him to do way more than they've had him do in the past. And if he can maintain some semblance of efficiency within that, maybe he's a top 75 guy. I'm kind of leaning toward the latter, but at least he's perked my interest. TJ McConnell has been on and off my rosters in 200-player formats. I get asked all the time, can TJ be a reliable fantasy player this season? Like, we actually get some value out of this guy? And I think the answer is, unfortunately, no. I think if TJ McConnell was capable of playing 22 minutes per night, we would have seen it by now. I think with TJ, aside from the hamstring injury, I think overall his knees, soft tissue stuff, I just don't think he can. He's so good. Like, he really is. Like, we've seen this in the playoffs year after year. This guy competes. When he's on the floor, they just give him the ball and get out of the way. All the good things you can say about TJ McConnell, they're all true. And because they're true, you know they would have him on the floor. more rather than less. I think they're just slow playing this to see what they can get out of him over the long term. Maybe also even looking at an eye toward next season and saying, you know what, let's not burn this guy out this season. Let's burn him out next season. So TJ McConnell, I don't even like him as a stash right now. That's how bad things have gotten. I always like TJ McConnell as a stash. Let's get to the Los Angeles Clippers. Brook Lopez. Okay. Brolo, everybody. It's Brolo time. We are staring at a question of, can Brook Lopez ruin Ivica Zubac's fantasy value? My column. If I had Ivica Zubac, I would be selling high right now because I don't know that this is going to happen. All I know is that Brook Lopez moves better than Ivica Zubac. Ivica Zubac got Defensive Player of the Year cred that I really don't think he should have gotten. I think if you play drop coverage because you have to, and teams can walk into elbow jumpers because they can, and they can kind of base an entire approach off of that. And if you're in the playoffs, you could be played off the floor. It's kind of the whole Rudy Gobert thing all over again because the guy's tall and stands in the right places and gets some good numbers. You know, does that make him the league's best defender? You know, we've seen this big man versus little guy dichotomy and Defensive Player of the Year voting all the time. And here we are where Brook Lopez, he's ancient, but he somehow slides his feet like a guard, and he has shot blocking potential that I don't think Ivica Zubac has. Maybe those numbers don't reflect that. I'd have to look at block rates and all the things. But overall, I think this team might play better with Brook Lopez on it than Ivica Zubac. So if the Clippers rattle off, and they've already started doing this, by the way, for the last week, if they start rattling off a bunch of wins and everything's going all hunky-dory, does Ivica Zubac just come right back into the lineup, take his 30 minutes? Thanks, Brook. We'll smell you later. You know, and Lopez goes back to 16. I mean, there was already rumblings as things were going south. Like, you paid for Brook Lopez and you don't play him. Okay. This to me is a contracts and promises and agents and all of those things that go into the decisions for playing time. It's more that than it was any sort of competition between Brook Lopez and Ivica Zubac. So we've got one good week from Brook Lopez. He hit 5,000 threes in one game. And it was like, okay, here we go again. It's the Brook Lopez is going to be an early round fantasy guy show. For how long? 2 weeks? Will he be inconsistent? Will it be more like top 75? Will it be top 100? Is Brook Lopez done? Is he, you know, can he do it again? Because we were asking that question 5 years ago. Can he do it again? And he did it again and again and again and again. And here we are again. Brook Lopez obviously has trouble for the rest of the season in terms of fantasy leagues because he needs to get to 25 minutes per game, I think, to make you feel good about the low high, where you get the low end production and the low minutes and the theoretic, you know, upside beyond that. But you would need an injury. Ivica Zubac, minus this injury, kind of felt like he wasn't going to be injured very much, has been rocking and rolling. Great fantasy production, not maybe to the level that folks wanted this year, but in the last couple of years, he's just been rolling. It's been his show. So Brook Lopez is not a great bet for rest of season value because I don't think Ivica Zubac is just going away. So we could kind of take that upside fantasy out of our head with Brook Lopez. I think in a best case scenario, when Ivica Zubac comes back, they give him his starting role and they say, we're going to work you in for 26 minutes. And Brook's going to get the other 22. That's where the battle begins, right there. Those games that week. If that happens and Ivica Zubac is ruined, then you won't be surprised. But it's very possible that the money plays. He comes back, he plays 26, he plays 28, he plays 30, and Ivica Zubac only takes like a little bit of a hit here. But I think if Brook Lopez keeps it up, it's going to be about a round or two off of Ivica Zubac's value. All right, enough about Brook Lopez. John Collins has been good. So, hey, welcome to the party. Been a top 75 guy over the last 6 games, hitting an unsustainable 57% from the field, 92% from the foul line. Okay, here's what we know about John Collins. It's another one of these where we take the numbers and we almost throw them out the door. John Collins is either good or he's not. It seems like somewhere somebody decides, hey, do you want to be good now? Okay, cool. We're good with that. You go be good. You get your numbers. Otherwise, go stand in the corner, sit down, shut up, don't get stats. It's literally one of the two things. And now a pivot that coincides with a winning streak. and an injury to Ivica Zubac. With Ivica Zubac returns, it's going to challenge John Collins' value to no get out. He is going to probably at that point in time be a top 135, 155, 175 guy at that point in time. But if somehow he can hit a seeing eye single through this thing and they keep winning and he's a part of the winning streak and they just decide, all right, this is something we should have done the entire time and now we're doing it now going forward, I think inside of all of that is a top 90 player. But you got to look for the vibes. If the vibes are there, if they say Collins, you're our guy, and you're just seeing it in the box score, the switch has flipped. If it's what we've seen all season long, it's going to be top 200 land. So we can wait and see. I just can't tell you one way or another because in Utah, this happened. In Atlanta, this happened. John Collins is a on or off switch guy, and there's nothing that we can do to predict that. It is what it is. Let's get to the Los Angeles Lakers. Austin Reeves is out. My heart is hurting. My championship squads are going to have to take a different route. They're going to have to make up the value some other way. Reeves, now we got to ask, can we buy low here? He's a top 25 value on the season. With LeBron back, it's not as cool as it was early on. I think with the stopping and the starting and some of the games involved with being injured, I think that hits this number a little bit. It's a top 16 rank per game. So, this guy's shown us top 10 potential. And now we got to figure out what to do with 4 to 6 weeks off. It's kind of it's 4 at minimum. And we've already started that about by three or 4 days now, and probably potential to drag out a little bit. And at the same time, it's kind of interesting. I think teams are interested in Austin Reeves as a target. And I think folks are correctly assuming that it might not work out to have Luka and Austin on the same team. It might not, even though they're vibing and it seems like things are good. It's a good offensive equation. But as we know with Luka, you need some defenders around the guy. And maybe he'll play defense in the playoffs, but maybe not. So you got to try to get, some defenders in there. And it's really hard to have a bad defensive front court or probably back court. And Austin Reeves may not be as bad as some people say he is on defense, but he's definitely not great. And Luka can be a turnstile. So teams might be interested in Austin Reeves, and you got a calf injury to complicate it all. Spicy stuff. I think from a buy low perspective, we're going to get top 25 value from him kind of no matter what. Like this 16 overall rank in 8 cat for 23 games and 35 minutes per game. It's a little high, maybe not. But top 25 is kind of in the bank. Like, you're going to get that. So in a playoff format, that's going to be your target in terms of your buy lows and your sell highs and all the different things. In a roto format, I think you might slide that, back to like 40, 50, and then start considering, whether or not A, the stat set works for you, B, you can stomach the injury risk, C, if you're getting enough value to make it all work out. But that's where the discussion heads, and we'll kind of take it from there. The Memphis Grizzlies are up next. Cam Spencer rising up my fantasy ranks. My God, these players, they're just, it's kind of a take on how good NBA players are these days, that somebody like Cam Spencer can kind of just come out of nowhere and be as good as he has been. Even the 400th player in the league is really, really good these days. Going off in fantasy leagues, he had a top 30 run, top 40 run, top 50 run. It depends on the measurements in there. And now you've got Ja Morant back on the season in 23 minutes per game, a 115 per game rank for Cam Spencer. That's what makes this an easy discussion. It's not even a hard discussion. This is an easy discussion. 49% from the field, 91% from the foul line. The dude can shoot. He gets across the half court line. He is authorized to shoot. His teammates want him to shoot. His teammates actually want him to have the ball. It'll be interesting when Ty Jerome comes back, like what that shift looks like, because Ty's a very capable player with the ball in his hands. And then you got Ja Morant, of course. You can see the way that the team is constructed and how they run their sets. When Ja gets the ball, it's almost like a record scratch in Memphis. And then when Cam Spencer gets the ball, it's like sweet classical, jazz, just beautiful music. And everybody goes to the right place. Everybody feels confident. The Grizzlies are winning. And That's going to play itself out. The Ty Jerome thing's interesting, but Cam Spencer's not going anywhere. What we would see from Cam Spencer that makes this super enticing is he probably keeps 27 minutes per game, probably the rest of the way. If he gets 30, if he gets 32, we're talking Colin Gillespie stuff. We're talking Austin Reeves stuff. We're talking a shooter who can shoot, at high volume and can kind of play with the defense and get what he wants and make sure the shot diet is good. Doesn't have to force it. It's just easy money. And so right now, I think people are like, well, John Morant, Ty Jerome, all the different things. And it's Cam Spencer. Who the fuck is Cam Spencer? Help them. Help you. Go toss a top 100 offer for Cam Spencer. See if you get him. Toss a top 80 offer. I think you could. I don't even think you need more than a top 80 offer to get Cam Spencer. And I think you might have a top 40 player the rest of the way. Cam Spencer, everybody. Let's get to the Miami Heat. Khalil Ware, has he gone from a buy low to a sell high? I'm asked. Like every other game. Every other game. I don't think he goes to a sell high ever, to be serious about this, though. I don't think you sell Khalil Ware under any circumstance right now. Top 45 guy in 8 cat leagues in 25 minutes per game. I think those numbers are pretty fair. Eric Spoelstra is now talking openly. I got to play these guys together, him and Bam Adebayo. That's going to happen more and more and more. And Bam, I think, has some injury risk in there. I also think Bam is going to lose control of this franchise by the end of this upcoming season. And if that writing gets on the wall quicker, then I think you might see a little bit more of a pivot from Bam to Khalil, even in addition to this idea that at 25 minutes per game, Khalil Ware has a really good shot, no matter what. Even if they love Bam Adebayo and he stays healthy, I think he's got a good shot to play 26 or 27 the rest of the way. And if they think that the future is here, I think 28 and 29 could be around the corner. That's why you don't sell high with Khalil Ware. You just let the games swing back and forth on the pendulum. Let's get to the Milwaukee Bucks. Bobby Portis, can he hold rest of his season value with Giannis back? Yes, he can. A 170 guy on the season is 24 minutes per game, but over the last couple of weeks, he's ranged between like 50 and 80 and done that in kind of relatively low minutes, 29 minutes overall. So that's the peak for him. I don't think he can play more than that. I don't think they want him playing more than that because everybody knows when Bobby's on the floor, it's Bobby Portis time, and he's going to score. He's going to hit threes. He's going to board. Some steals and then good percentages with the low turnovers. Maybe the turnovers perk up here if Giannis decides he doesn't want to play or whatever that happens. With the Giannis thing, and I guess I should just say it, Giannis, I think now after everybody tested the market and the market got stressed with questions about what do we do with this Giannis situation, I think everybody kind of landed on, well, it's not going to happen right away. And if I'm Giannis, I need to prove to everybody, whether it's I want to try to get players to come here, which is crazy talk. I need to show everybody I'm good. And if I want to get traded to the places I would like to play, I got to show everybody I'm good. And so this next month will be Giannis month if he can stay healthy. Bobby Portis will be fine. Kevin Porter will be fine. Ryan Rollins will be a top 75 to 85, maybe even 90 guy. And then Bobby Portis will be fine. Kyle Kuzma will not be fine. Everybody else is out. But that group right there, I think they're going to be fine. But Giannis might have a terror. He might go off this month, like an entire month of Giannis proving that he can be an impact player. Speaking of impact players, Anthony Edwards is our next player to talk about with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think people now almost annually for the first half of the season ask, can Anthony Edwards be a top 10 guy? He's a top 13 guy right now. And he's everything's in place. The numbers are fine. I think the big thing for Ant is Julius Randle. And I've talked so much about Julius Randle. You guys probably know what I'm going to say before I even say it. I just think in the beginning of the season, they established Julius Randle. And then Anthony Edwards says, you know what? I'd like to compete for an MVP. I'd like to compete because I think I'm the best player in the game. And I want to prove it to myself and everybody else. And then he goes off. And Anthony Edwards was worrying the crap out of me last season. I had a few Anthony Edwards out there in the I think it was a 5 slot. And it's like, I got to take Anthony Edwards, the only one who could do this here. And now he's on a top 40 start. And then boom, where does Anthony Edwards finish? 5. So Anthony Edwards, I think he can finish at 5 if he wants, if he can. It might not be a great bet, especially considering some of the players who have joined the chat this season, the Tyrese Maxeys, the Kawhi Leonards, the Jalen Johnsons. There's a lot of competition at the top now. So maybe that makes this a bad odds play. Maybe it's a 33% chance that Anthony Edwards can be a top 7 or 8 guy. Can he be a top 10? Yes. Maybe it's like a 60-40 shot. But Anthony Edwards, I'm going to put my faith in that dude because he's a baller. New Orleans Pelicans are always interesting. Man, they get DeJounte Murray back soon. Month 11 of a 12-month timetable. With a Shams Charania report 3 months ago that DeJounte Murray would be back this month, January. We're not there yet, but let's say we're there. So, all right, DeJounte Murray, what about him? Top 40 guy the last 2 seasons. Cool. All right. Does he have his explosion back? I have no clue. There's like grainy internet footage of him dunking like 5 months ago. It's New Orleans, so it's not the media's fault. It's just not a big media market. They don't have a ton of interest in New Orleans Pelicans basketball outside of the diehards. And that's not even the fans' fault. That's the ownership's fault. But DeJounte Murray, we'll find out soon what's going on there. And then the key questions. Did anything occur with Achilles recovery protocols that would also impact DeJounte Murray? Because we're seeing Jason Tatum with a better timetable. We're seeing Jason Tatum trying to blast through timetables. This is not like Jason Tatum is, maybe I guess he could be theoretically like health-wise like a better recoverer than DeJounte Murray. But by and large, these protocols are standard. And so I kind of think that Achilles injuries have experienced some kind of it used to be a death knell to get an Achilles injury. And now it's happening all over the place. And also timetables are improving. So let's say the back-to-backs aren't off the table for him. Let's say he plays in back-to-backs within a month. Okay. Now he's in play for top 40 production. At that point in time, he's in play for top 40 production. Did he slide at all? Did Derek Queen drink his milkshake? Did Jordan Poole show up and ruin the party? These are good questions. But there's enough injuries in New Orleans and enough motivation for them to play DeJounte Murray so they can make their playoff run and kind of reset the market for DeJounte Murray is another big thing. So I think they're going to be all in on playing him. I think that certain players might have little bumps in the road. I think Derek Queen has a little bump in the road when they're at full strength. I think guys like Sadiq Bey, will have a little bump in the road when they're at full strength. I think, Jeremiah Fears will have a bump in the road when DeJounte Murray comes back. This is not breaking news, but I also think within this mix that there's enough basketballs to go around. There's enough oxygen for everybody to be pretty good. And then you get the injury and then you get the game off for DeJounte Murray early on. But top 40 play for DeJounte Murray, why don't we measure that out at, say, a top 75 upside and say that we are going to count him as being back 2 weeks after he returns, 4 weeks after he returns in that range. Well, you get February, the end of February, you get probably after the trade deadline, you get kind of the full DeJounte Murray experience for February, March, and April. And if you're in a playoff format, that is possibly top 50 play, possibly top 75 play. But either way, that moves the needle. He needs to be on rosters. And in terms of trying to predict and adjust and trade and all the different things, I think you could go top 75 the rest of the way starting in February. Make your adds and drops and stashes and trades accordingly. Now, Sadiq Bey has been a really interesting player. His stat set has issues defensively. He's not going to get you a lot of defensive stats. Every now and then he has a big game where he gets a bunch of steals. But by and large, he's a scorer. He's a rebounder. He gets you some assists. He gets you some threes. And he does this in flurries. It is usually like a Sadiq Bey month. And we've been in it for about a month and a half, 2 months. Still the rank on the season, 150 in 8-cat leagues. Now, in 9-cat leagues, it's probably like 110. It's actually 116. I got it right here. And being available and playing in 33 games this season, in a 9-cat format, he's inside the top 80. And in an 8-cat format, he's inside the top 100. And yes, availability matters. And yes, if you need to make the fantasy playoffs and maybe you don't think that Sadiq Bey can help you in the fantasy playoffs because all these other players I just mentioned, you got to get there, and still this value plays. So he's had an amazing season, 80-100. I think there's two things here. One is he might just survive because he's Sadiq Bey, and that's what he's been doing all season long. But it's going to be very hard with DeJounte Murray and others playing. And yeah, Zion could be a part of this mix as well. I think it's going to be tough. I think that maybe you give him a late round grade. If you're in a 9-cat league, give him a little extra berth in an 8-cat format. I think at the first sign of trouble, you can probably cut and run because the upside's not great overall on a per game basis. Jeremiah fears, is he rosterable when DeJounte returns? I think that answer is no. Let's get to the New York Knicks. Karl-Anthony Towns is interesting. Again, another center that I was forced to draft in 2 center formats where I'm drafting in the middle in the 7 and 8 slots. I got to do something to address the fact that I need some upside. I also need a big man. I need XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Karl-Anthony Towns, not really getting it done this season. He's been a 21 rank in 8-cat leagues, 33 minutes per game. The field goals are down. He's down 5% from the field. He's down 6% from deep. He's been making it up at the foul line with the most foul shots attempted in his career. He's up to 7. So it's solid. He's down about a rebound a game, and he's only playing 33 instead of the Tom Thibodeau-fueled 35. So can he improve? And I think the answer is yes. I think that this is a shooter, and almost like in a shooting guard context, shooting guards have month-long slumps. They have half-season slumps. His slump is 5% down from the field. I'm willing to accept that there's some degradation here in his overall ability. It happens. You get old, but I don't think that's it. I just think it's garden variety regression that we're about to see here. So what does that look like? 21, I think might look a lot like his last week, when he's shooting 50% from the field and he's 16. I think 16, 12, I think these are the ranges that we can count on for him. Then if you see an injury to somebody like, Mikal Bridges, I know he's never missed a game in his life, but he's been a big engine for this team. OG Anunoby wasn't the engine that got that done, to make Karl-Anthony Towns really, really, really hum. Hell, if Jalen Brunson got hurt, Karl-Anthony Towns can step into those minutes. He can step into those shots. He has the ability to do so. Right now, he's been limited, and I don't think he can be a first-round guy without one of those aforementioned injuries. So is it a buy low? Sure, it's a buy low, but I don't know if the margin's going to get there for you to make it interesting because he also has a big name, and people aren't really admitting that he's fallen off, or maybe they are. Who knows? Oklahoma City Thunder, you got Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. Chet is doing okay. It's the Jalen Williams side of this equation that's really, really interesting. Now, he had a good game yesterday. If he hadn't had that, I think we'd be having a different conversation. It would actually be a lot more value on the line because it's been bad for him. Now he's up to 42 with the good game. And his numbers are a little bit better than they were the day before. But his field goals are down. His shooting's down. His foul shooting is up. And basically what we just need from him is more volume. And that'll move him in the top 25 range. If he ever gets truly cut loose, and it's a SGA injury or multiple injuries everywhere for the Oklahoma City Thunder scorers. If he ever gets cut loose, if he ever has his own team, he's a first-round player. So it's a buy low moment. It's a nice little garden variety 1 or 2 round buy low moment for a guy that does have some injury risk with the wrist concerns, but it's a nice little buy low moment on a guy who's, I think, the 5th best player in the NBA. Let's get out of Oklahoma City. Let's get to Orlando. We talked a lot about Paolo Banchero earlier in the earlier show, but for this show, he's a top 125, 175 guy in the season in 8 and 9 cat leagues, respectively. He's down 5 field goal attempts per game. That's interesting. He's down 1.5 minutes per game. He's hitting just 22.5% from deep. So he can't shoot, which is not new. If you punt 6 categories, he's an amazing fantasy player, but everything else is all bad. It's all bad, and I don't think it's getting any better. And as I said in the last show, I think there's a stubbornness to his game. He's been able to do everything he's wanted to do at every level, and including the NBA. Now, as the playoffs have shown, like, you can just stick 5 guys in the paint and he can't figure it out. What he's got to figure out is how to get the advantage, get rid of the ball. Instead of making it all about his personal tempo, he needs to make it about his team's tempo. And while that's the conversation in Orlando that everybody's having, and a lot of his fans and a lot of the media is trying to come to his aid because he is that good. But the reality is that he has to make it about his teammates and not his own personal tempo. When that happens, you'll see some things switch. Maybe you even see an improvement in his fantasy game because he takes so many bad, tough shots that 43% is all he can make. And maybe if he spent more time at the foul line, doing a little bit less, working out on all the million things that he's doing to be the player that he is, and maybe works on those foul shooting. And I'm not saying he doesn't work on it. I'm just saying, like, you can make it your one and only focus. Maybe that would help his fantasy game. I doubt he's going to do that one, but this guy needs to look at Desmond Bane, and he needs to look at Franz Wagner, and he needs to look at Jalen Suggs and say, what can I do for you three today, and not the other way around. Quick note, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you head over to the Sports Ethos YouTube channel for our daily fantasy content. And while you're at it, subscribe to the NBA Today podcast feed, wherever you listen to your favorite pods. Let's get to the Philadelphia 76ers. Can Adem Bona still be a fantasy relevant player this season? Yes, he is right now. He had a 4-block game. We're going to watch him tonight here in a couple hours. We'll see what happens. He could go for 0 points and like 1 block. He could go for 4. That's the fun of this. But the Philadelphia beat writers are openly talking about, should Adem Bona be the backup to Joel Embiid? They're also talking about Joel Embiid being, they won't say this. They're just saying that he's bad on defense. They're just saying that he's barely running up and down the floor. I think he might be the worst defensive player that we've seen in the league in some time. And I've watched Nemanja Bjelica in Sacramento, where they thought it was great defense. This is only going to change when the Sixers decide it's going to change. When they get over the Joel Embiid, him getting his numbers and them losing. When they get over that, when they realize that maybe the only way out of this is to trade Joel Embiid to a contender who can somehow make that work. And then you say, look, yeah, we don't like Joel Embiid as a long-term asset, but if we get into a playoff series and we can put Joel Embiid on the floor for 20 minutes, and everybody knows those 20 minutes are Joel's minutes, and we need his scoring and all the things, and it's just completely clear-cut like that, maybe that's the way out for the Philadelphia 76ers, but it's not riding Joel Embiid's back in the playoffs. If anything, he makes them a worse team anytime he hits the floor. That equation's not going to get any better. So when they figure that out, Andre Drummond, probably next man up as it stands right now. Andre Drummond has been bad the last couple of weeks. My concern is, as I've watched him come into the league or come into the season in the best shape I've seen him in the last 5 years, why I discounted Andre Drummond heading into this season as much as I did is he looked like that guy. He looked like who he looks like right now for the last couple seasons. He looked like he couldn't play. Like, I'm watching Andre Drummond this last week and I'm thinking, can he physically keep up with this? The weeks prior, he looked pretty spry. So I just wonder, does he have only a certain amount of burst and then it goes away? Does he have that burst for the first month or two and then it goes away? And then you got the young guy who can run, defend, do all the things, getting a little bit more confidence. So I'm even actually trying to take the ball to the rack the other day. I haven't seen any of that this season for Adem Bona. So if this pivot occurs, Adem Bona can be a top 50 guy pretty easily. I don't want to go beyond that at this point in time because I think what we've seen from Philadelphia is an inability to kind of get this figured out, where you got the good defender that allows you to do the things you need to do defensively. So what do you do with him on offense? How do you run screen action? How do you get this guy involved? How do you get him a couple buckets here and there? How do you get him loose on the offensive glass? They've been kind of out on the perimeter with him, and that doesn't make a ton of sense. He does get a running start to the hoop to get some offensive boards, but I just don't think that's the way you deploy this guy. So Adem Bona, I'm not going to go higher than top 50, at least at this point in time, in an upside scenario. And that upside scenario happens when Joel Embiid and or Andre Drummond go crashing down. Kelly Oubre, is he a mustache guy? I'm kind of concerned. Like, I think that there's a lot of noise in the rotation. I think that Jared Butler didn't help. I don't think, the fact that this team's not hitting on all cylinders right now, probably due to Joel Embiid. In fact, you look at the Joel Embiid games and look at the Tyrese Maxey games at the same time, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But Kelly Oubre, I had him as a mid-rounder mentally, and now I'm kind of sliding him back to top 100 and 110 on a per-game basis whenever he gets back, which will be in the next couple of weeks. And I don't know if that's enough value to stash. I think we want to hear that Kelly Oubre is returning within a week, and that's probably the right balance of risk and reward on a pickup. As for Embiid, because he's producing, he's got a top 65 number when on the floor. He's played in 13 games this season. Every single big game he has, anytime he plays, send out 11 offers in your 12-team league immediately. That's an order. All right, Grayson Allen in Phoenix. What's up with Grayson? I mean, top 70 numbers on the season, 18 games, spicy, 16 points, 3 threes, 3 boards, 4 assists, 1.7 steals. I mean, it's good, right? This is the stuff I thought he would do last year. And he came into the season light and jumpy. And the season before, he came in like a linebacker and slow and injury prone. Here we go again. He's injured right now. I think you got to hold this because I think they believe in Grayson Allen in Phoenix. I think when he returns, they just give him his old role. I don't think there's any questions about it. I'm not worried about Jalen Green. I think players that are more toward the back end of the rotation are going to take the hit when Jalen Green returns. Of course, everybody will take a small hit, but I think they're going to recognize that this Phoenix Suns team has played good basketball in the way they're currently situated. Grayson Allen's been a big part of that so far. I don't think Jalen Green comes in and they just give him the car keys. I think there's going to be a little bit of a respect for everybody that got them to where they are, which, by the way, is Colin Gillespie, who's about to cross the top 30 on a guy that, no joke, said it in the last show. If you drafted Colin Gillespie and you're not an NBA fantasy pass holder, I want to hear from you. I don't think there's a person that didn't have an NBA fantasy pass from Sports Ethos reading the B150 that drafted Colin Gillespie. I mean, maybe in a 30-team league. I'm in a 30-team league, and I drafted Colin Gillespie. So I know at least one 30-team league, it didn't happen there. So what's going to happen when Jalen Green gets back? There was a good a quote, I think I retweeted it from Dwayne Rankin, who does excellent work for the Arizona Republic. And it was basically Jordan Ott saying, when we want him to be the man, we have him be the man. And when we have other players on the floor, he'll just dial it back a little bit. But the key thing there is he's capable of being, let's go, a number 2 offensive player on a pretty good team. Like, he's a guy you can have setting tempo for your basketball squad because he can generate his own offense. He can pull off the dribble. He's great with the dribble. He can move both directions. He takes what the defense gives him. Athletically, he's quick and hard to cover. So he has the shooting, he has the dribbling, he has the vision, he has the defense. He has all of the ingredients. He's Colin Gillespie. Buy into this every single time, and then the next time after that, just do it. Portland Trailblazers, Shaedon Sharpe. What should everybody expect the rest of the season for this guy? I think it's exactly what he's giving you right now. If anything, his numbers are up this season. He's a top 95 to 135 guy, depending on 8 and 9 cap formats. Just dependent upon certain things, like his stat set might fit your build better than others. I think with the numbers being up, that's probably what we should expect, because he took a little step forward. Shaedon Sharpe, good basketball player, not so great in fantasy. And I'm kind of curious for his career, what he can do, because he's such a great offensive guy. I think you can build something on defense with what he brings to the table. But there are a lot of these guys out there, and do you want to put that many shots in this guy's hands? And I would like to see more assists if I'm going to do that. Maxime Reynaud in Sacramento is next up on the list. A lot of questions about this guy 4 weeks ago. What's fun about him is he's morphed into a very simple, straightforward, top 100, plow forward kind of a guy. It's been better the last couple of weeks. He's been in the top 70 to 85 range in 8 cat leagues. I think the numbers are high for that sample. I think we're back into the top 100 discussion. I think he's a top 100 guy the rest of the way. And I don't know what they're going to do with Domantas Sabonis, man. I think that like everybody was cool with this time off. Like, I need a break. You need a break. I don't really want to be here. You don't really want me to be here? All right, let's take some time off. We'll come back and we'll figure it out in a couple months. If they want to play Sabonis and give him heavy minutes and let him have the car keys and do all the things, maybe reestablish some trade value for the offseason, it all makes sense. I think that Sabonis could be complementary to Raynaud's game. And I think that Raynaud's, the plan to play Raynaud makes Scott Perry look very good. And I think at least that's a feather in his cap as everybody's looking for feathers in Sacramento. Westbrook, Malik Monk, Dennis Schroeder. Look, this is kind of where we want to be. Keon Ellis. I don't know about Ellis this season. Like, if he survives the trade deadline, which is going to be hard, like this is going to be a tough one. Like Sacramento could get offered like a bag of donuts, and they would be like, "Oh, got to get the donuts, got to get them donuts." And then the problem here is that whoever gets Keon Ellis might need him for 20 minutes a game, might need him for 25 minutes a game. And we're kind of back at the late round territory at best for him. Where Keon Ellis was super special is that he was better than everybody else who played for the Sacramento Kings all this time, you know? And so you have a top 50 asset in that case. And I don't think a team that acquires him is going to take him in being like, okay, Keon, you're going to get 30 minutes a game. I think that the Kings have done enough to ruin this guy and ruin his value that's just not a feasible outcome. So we're really in a bad spot, you know, and one of the reasons I didn't go big on Keon this season, and I do have him in places, is just they're so bad at this in Sacramento. Just bad at basketball analysis. I mean, come on, guys. Let's get this going. I'm not even a fan. I want you guys to do good. Come on. Keon is kind of last on this list here, but somebody like Malik Monk, who's been terrible and they've been ruining him as well, they could turn to Malik Monk if they get rid of DeMar DeRozan and say, Malik, go do your thing. And Malik doing his thing in a situation where there's not a lot of players on the court, you know, say Sabonis is still out, you know, you could find a scenario maybe where Dennis Schroeder either gets traded or gets hurt, and Malik Monk now has top 50 to 100 potential. So I like Monk. I kind of like Schroeder over Monk right now, which is not great because I don't think Schroeder has a lot of upside. He's got a top 100 future in front of him and no real impediments. I mean, Zach LaVine's going to come back at some point and complicate things, but between LaVine and Westbrook, I think everybody can coexist, you know, Monk included, Schroeder included. Hell, Keon Ellis, if he was to stick around, or they were to give him like 27 minutes in this team that I'm constructing here, you know, with Raynaud, and maybe you bring Sabonis back. As long as they don't bring DeMar DeRozan back, that's the key. DeMar DeRozan is a team killer. He's a team killer and he's a fantasy team killer. He's both. It's unfair. I mean, he's in the twilight of his career. He's a good dude and he's a good basketball player. You just don't bring DeMar DeRozan into your team without stipulations. Like, no, you don't get to go down the court and try to draw a foul all 30 minutes you're on the floor. You don't get to do it. So anyway, this squad right here, I would rank Westbrook over Schroeder, over Monk, and then Keon the rest of the way. Let's get out of Sacramento. It's the smartest thing ever. San Antonio, Dylan Harper is now a question mark. And I think I've been pretty much out in front on Dylan Harper saying you could be a late round guy. And that's not like deal breaking stuff for anybody. I mean, if you drafted Dylan Harper, you probably dropped him at some point, and then you picked him up at some point, maybe as a streamer. Maybe you thought Dylan Harper's a really good basketball player, and that part's true. And you said, okay, maybe he could see his way through. He had a couple big poppy lines. I think the problem here is the inconsistency, but it's the foul shooting. And he's shooting 70% on the line or from the line this season. And that's not probably going to change. Like, he's a 75% shooter at Rutgers. He did it on 6 attempts per game. This all kind of just tracks. I don't think he's going to become an 80% shooter this season. So if he's going to be a negative value at the foul line and get a decent amount of attempts, he's at 2.6 per game in just the 21 minutes per game he's playing right now. That's an anchor. It's an anchor. If you're not going to get any blocks, he's got no blocks. Maybe he's got one block in there. But steals, like he's subsisting off of steals and points and rebounds and assists. He's not getting you that many threes. It's just a bad fantasy equation. It's probably an equation for a future season. Sandro damn it, I practiced all night. I'm not even kidding. I did. I practiced all night. Sandro Mamukelashvili. Sandro Mamukelashvili. I did practice. Sandro Mamukelashvili. I practiced all night. And I blew it, and I knew I was going to blow it because the pressure got to me. Can he be a top 100 player rest of season? Is he a must roster guy? Well, I know if you're going to add Mo Bamba on a full deal for the rest of the season, maybe something's not right with Jakob Poeltl. So with that, they like Sandro Mamukelashvili. Yep, I got that. I think I got that. They like him. And he's had a really good last month or so. He's been a top 95 to 115 guy over the last month and 14 games. So you've got a nice foundation here, well within the top 150. You're seeing the trend as he's gone from 2 months inside of the top 150, 22 minutes per game for that sample, moved to this 95 to 115 range. Now you get 27 minutes per game for Sandro Mamukelashvili. And that top 45 to 165 production over the last 7 games, that's really freaking good. 14.6 boards, 2 assists, 4.1 cash counters, 57.4% from the field's a little high, but it's okay. You're going to take that. It's top 60 value. The numbers are up like 3% from the field in his career. There's additional attempts. The 3-point shooting is up. The other stuff is more minutes equals more stats. But the takeaway here is he's finally putting it all together. And if Jakob Poeltl's injury is bad enough that you have to sign Mo Bamba, maybe you buy Sandro Mamukelashvili. Still getting feedback in the chat. It's the best I've ever done on that one. Utah Jazz, Kyle Filipowski. What are we doing here? We're going to hold. We're going to watch Jusuf Nurkic. The per game rank is really bad for Kyle Filipowski. He's at 210 on the season in 30 games, 23 minutes per game. That's probably the saving grace for all of this. Shooting, not in a good place. Deployment, not in a good place. But every once in a while, we see what happens when he gets cut loose. If you look at the last week, he's inside the top 130 in 8 cat leagues and 22 minutes per game. 11 points, 7 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal. Very Kyle Filipowski. Over the last month, 140, 26 minutes per game. 11 points, 7 boards, 2.4 assists. Steals are down a little bit. Field goal percentage is up. Free throw percentage is up. But the overall profile is down, especially in the assists. Not handling the ball as much. So this is just about knowing what we know, knowing what he did last season, and knowing what we know about Jusuf Nurkic. He's going to get hurt. Eventually, they're going to get tired of losing games because teams are picking apart Nurk. I know he's getting a lot of positive pub right now, but I can't unsee what I see when I watch a Utah Jazz game, which is back cut after back cut after back cut after pick and roll, after teams stopping their set to reorganize and say, hey, that guy, let's go at that guy. Yeah, that's happening. So I can't unsee that. So Jusuf will be a back-end late-round guy until he's not. And until he's not, Kyle Filipowski will be a frustrating stash that can sometimes reach up and get you a good game or two. And we'll just watch. But I'm going to have him on most rosters where I can, because that late season run is going to be fun. Ace Bailey, this injury is taking out a ton of steam. I think a lot of complications can exist for his fantasy value. I think he can be schemed out of a game by his own team pretty quickly. He relies on a lot of tough shots. I think when they run this high post inverted big man offense, which they'll run with Jusuf or Kyle one way or another, or Kevin Love, I think it's hard to get a guy like Ace Bailey volume of quality shots. And that's why you see one big game, one bad game. You see the 43% from the field's not great. Steals and blocks, not where you want them to be, 0.7, 0.4. Maybe they could be better. Who knows? We got to see how he translates at the NBA level defensively. He's just 24 minutes per game, ton of size, ton of mobility. These numbers, if they took a year 2 jump, it wouldn't be shocking for me. But he's going to have his work cut out for him to get back into the flow, as well as kind of earn his keep. They will try to make him a thing, and I think he will be a thing starting in about February after the trade deadline. Ace Bailey, late round grade Ace Bailey. February through April. March and April could get more interesting than that, though. Walter Clayton, I think, is my choice for the backup point guard winner. If I could choose, if I could hand pick and say I'm going to pick one, I'd pick him, because I think that within his shooting profile and the ability to maybe get some steals and operate as a extremely destitute man's version of a poor man's version of Steph Curry, possibly I would like that rather than seeing Isaiah Collier get 30 minutes, get like big points or even medium points and big assists and just have it not turn into anything fantasy-wise. I'd rather see Walter Clayton do it. Taylor Hendricks is dead to me. Bryce Sensabaugh will have a good possibly week here with Ace Bailey hurt, but I'm not looking into that for any sort of rest of season value. I'm looking at the Washington Wizards for that. I'm looking at Justin Champagnie, of course. Now, just a top 150 value over the last week in 8 cat leagues. His last game was a little bit of a stinker, but he got 27 minutes, so I was actually happy about that game. The 2 games prior to that were very, very good in the top 50 to 75 range. The minutes are really the only question that we have about this guy. In 16 minutes per game, he has kind of rumbled along, playing 29 games this season to almost top 200 numbers. And so if he gets 23 minutes per game or the 26 or 27 that he got, this is a guy who can easily be a top 75 player. It's the combination of field goal percentage, the kind of nice threes, the good threes, the rhythm threes, though he took a couple bad ones the other day because he got 2 consecutive offensive rebounds and he thought, I earned this. But mostly he takes good threes. He gets steals. He gets blocks. He's one of the better rebounders in the game right now. His offensive rebounding skill is really something that I'm enjoying watching as I'm spot shadowing him, trying to make sure that I got the right values going for you guys. I'm like, man, I can't believe he actually pulled that off. Lots of smart offensive rebounding there. So I think he's a winning basketball player. I think they've already bequeathed him the 20 minutes. If he was to get cut back, it would be pretty shocking for me right now. So 20, I think, in especially a 9-cat league, gets him to the late round mark. I think that the 25 and the 27 get him into the 100 and the 75, which is why we're always watching Justin Champagnie. Bilal Coulibaly came back and finally was good this last week. Top 150 on the season in 27 minutes per game, but he's been flirting with 100 over the last couple of weeks. But this last week, he's been at 70 in 8-cat leagues with the 26 minutes per game. He's getting his defensive stats. He's got, over the last week, he's got 4.3 cash counting stats. And that's steals, threes, and blocks, which is why we've always been interested in Bilal Coulibaly. Percentages will always be an adventure with him. Even turnovers and shot selection and how far do they want to go with Bilal Coulibaly at this point is a fair question because you do have other players in the mix. His time might have passed. They gave him a big green light last season. Then the injuries and the offseason, it's just been bad, but it's been good lately. I think we're going to go back to a late round grade for Bilal Coulibaly. If he has another good game, I might even say top 100 at some point, but it's too messy in Washington to get too excited about a 2 to 3 week stretch for Bilal Coulibaly. I'll just leave it at that. Bub Carrington has been making waves all over the place. He had 8 turnovers in a game the other day, and it kind of reflects how he's been playing. At some point in time, I don't know if this is a clutch thing. I don't know if clutch has the power in the NBA that they once did, but it is telling that Bub Carrington sort of comes out of nowhere and they say, hey, Bub, it's your team, man. You go out and you do whatever the heck you want. You get Bub getting the ball and he just goes and he's like running at full speed and he's hitting a few more threes, taking some ill-advised shots, going to some ill-advised places with the ball, and then the turnovers are a reflection of that sort of aggression in his game. Unfortunately, all this aggression hasn't really produced results in the past. Bob Carrington was a big name last year as far as rookies go. He's a late round guy, but people were excited and then he got kind of the opportunity and then the numbers started rolling in and then they didn't. And then the efficiencies in his fantasy game started showing, no defensive stats, questionable shooting percentages, needing to go for 25, 5 and 5 or whatever the numbers needed to be for him to be good. So I didn't really hop on this Bub Carrington wagon, and I think that 8 turnover game might have been the beginning of the dip that he's about to experience. And then we're seeing Trey Johnson step into that void. Now he's got a top 100 pair of 2 weeks of 7 games. He's getting his shooting guard stats that I'm always talking about, which is an efficient shooting percentage with good free throw, good threes, just enough rebounds and assists to get you by, decent scoring, and possibly top 75 potential when they fully cut him loose. I think he's good enough to get that. I got questions about his defense and his overall profile as his career goes. Maybe less questions than I have for a lot of players in his position, but there's questions nonetheless. At least this season, though, after the trade deadline might be Trey Johnson's season. So an early stash is certainly in order here. Just don't be surprised if in a week or two you're asking about a drop. And if you're going to do this, you got to know that that's a possibility. And then after February, that's probably when this goes really, really well for folks. Same thing for Tristan Vukcevic. Vukcevic has long been a target of ours. He's not getting playing time right now because Alexander Sarr is healthy, and they're also not really flipping the switch here. They in Washington, Brian Keefe, they are very good at prescribing minutes and making sure that everybody fits in their little bucket. Tristan hasn't had a bucket this season. He had a nice little stretch, even had a nice block on Victor Wembanyama, but he had a nice little stretch, and he's been putting lots of good film together. His passing especially is completely underrated. So this is a player you could invert the floor with. And at the same time, there are some questions whether he's good enough, to kind of be a guy that you would want to even try that with. And defensively, can he hang? I think he's on the right side of those questions. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be like the next great thing or better than a sliced bread or whatever. He is good enough for that discussion. And I think at some point in time, perhaps when they start to slow down with Alexander Sarr, I don't know if this is a March thing. I don't know if it's an April thing. I would prefer if it was a now thing and they start to play those two guys together. I think with CJ McCollum and this being sort of a veteran-led team, using this all very loosely, but Chris Middleton still gets minutes. CJ McCollum still gets all the keys to the car. And sometimes he's worth it. And sometimes he's still CJ McCollum from a couple years back. And sometimes he goes 3 for 15. And it's not great. So that's this team, though, right now. And they're not ready to say, well, let's just try Tristan and Alexander together and we'll just throw caution to the wind. We'll learn a lot and we'll figure it out. They're not ready for that. But when they decide they want to allocate 22 minutes per game to Tristan Vukcevic, regardless of Alexander Sarr starting, you're going to see some late round value. You're going to see some highlights. You're going to see some 15-point games. You're going to see some consistent stat production where they go, okay, we're going to give him the 25th minute with or without Sarr. And then you have the scenario where he actually gets cut loose and he can play 30 minutes a game because Alexander either got hurt or they're just deciding they're going to play the Twin Towers because you're Washington. And why not? That's going to do it for this episode of Fantasy NBA Today. If you're listening on the pod feed, please take 60 seconds, leave a 5-star review. That really helps us out a lot. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the Sports Ethos channel so you never miss an episode. Big thanks to producer Andre, my co-host, who's out there partying right now, hopefully, Doc, our fantasy basketball content team, Mike, Keston, Mark, Tim, William, Pedro, Yoel, John, Paul, Anthony, and many more, our tech team. Guys, 2026 is really big. I'm very excited about what's going to happen here at Sports Ethos and even just in life in general. When you surround yourself with people that are so good at what they do, but also so kind of concerned with doing things the right way and just leaving things better than when they found them, I feel that that's the team that we've assembled here at Sports Ethos, and even just in my life at large. I've never been so excited about as my voice cracks here, it's both the emotion and the fact that I've been barking at you guys for a couple hours now. When you do that, something special shifts in your life, and it's something, if you've ever been through it and things just get easier and things just get better, and all of your relationships get more authentic, and everything just becomes like a stepping stone to something better. That's what I've experienced the last couple years here with Sports Ethos. And I feel very blessed for that. And you guys, as the power behind that engine, you guys are basically you're what makes it go. And so when you guys send us messages and you guys do the silly little liking and the subscribes and all the things that we have to ask you about because of social media these days, it's just a great thing. And here at Sports Ethos, what we're going to do is we're going to make this a sustainable industry. And we're going to put the big brains together. We're going to figure it out instead of having everybody lose their jobs and having everybody kind of succumb to the lowest common denominator, thinking that almost has to be the way that it is right now because of the way that social media and the industry at large is kind of contracting. We're going to figure it out. And we always have. And we've been growing. So it's all good right now. And you guys are the reason we do that. This industry and this great game we play is the reason we do that. And the way it brings people together, keeps people together for years and years and years. I mean, you got a 30-year-old fantasy league, people that you probably were in high school with, some of you all out there. So you guys will email me and tell me, I'm going to Vegas and I got, the 30-year fantasy league and I need the B150 printed, because I'm an old timer and I don't do this fancy whatever. It's special because it's about people staying together and doing this that we do together. So thank you guys. Thank you very much. Happy New Year from all of us here at Sports Ethos. We'll see you later. Fantasy NBA Today, presented by FanDuel.